80 meters below the surface where sunlight never reaches, where the ocean floor is cold, dark, and silent. Something was waiting, a Lamborghini, buried, forgotten, consumed by the deep. Decades of rust, barnacles, and silence had swallowed it whole. It looked like nothing more than a coral reef, but it was a legend, Inozi 16's Yozi 25T Purais, and this is the story of how we brought it back, all 75 stages. From the ocean floor to the showroom floor. Our underwater footage, dark teal water, particles floating, haunting ambience. This was no ordinary car. Before it became a wreck, it was a vintage open-top Lamborghini Roadster, twin brass headlamps, a polished brass radiator grille, wooden spoke wheels, a burgundy red leather interior, hand-stitched and buttoned, a machine built not just to drive, but to be experienced. Somehow, for reasons lost to time, it ended up 80 meters beneath the surface of the ocean, and there it stayed. For decades. When our dive team first swept their torches across the ocean floor, they almost missed it entirely. What they saw looked like just another section of reef, a mound of barnacles, some coral formations, seaweed swaying in the current. But then, one of the divers stopped. He reached out and touched the surface. Beneath the barnacles was metal, beneath the coral was a headlamp, beneath the seaweed was a Lamborghini, the orange paint, gone. Completely invisible. Every inch of the body was carpeted in thick barnacle colonies. Rust had punched holes through every single panel. The wooden wheels had rotted to nothing, just black crumbling stumps. The leather seats, reduced to rusted springs and blackened scraps. The brass fittings, headlamps, grille bumpers, corroded beyond recognition. The ocean had been patient and thorough, but we had found it, and we were not leaving without it. A once in 30, once in 52 the assessment. Before we could even think about recovery, we needed to understand exactly what we were dealing with. 8 divers, documentation boards, underwater cameras, measuring tapes, numbered tags for every single component. For days, our team worked systematically around the wreck, cataloging every rust hole, every collapsed panel, every corroded fitting, every broken wheel spoke. This wasn't salvage. This was archaeology. The findings were both devastating and extraordinary. Devastating because the damage was total. There was nothing left untouched. The chassis had severe structural corrosion. The floor pan had collapsed sections. The engine was a solid mass of rust and marine growth, but extraordinary because the core architecture was still there. The bones of the car survived, the lines, the proportions. The original design, its soul was intact, and that was all we needed. 2028 T left T begins. Recovery day arrived under a gray, overcast sky. A heavy-duty salvage vessel positioned directly above the wreck site. Thick steel lifting cables were lowered 80 meters into the dark water below. Our divers, working in near-zero visibility, carefully threaded and secured those cables around the Lamborghini's chassis. Then the crane operator gave the signal, and the cables went taut. T surafa biraik mustamentuimal. First a disturbance in the water, then bubbles, then foam, then the surface began to heave. And then, for the first time in decades, that Lamborghini broke the surface. Barnacled, rusted, dripping with seawater and seaweed, unrecognizable, destroyed and absolutely breathtakingly alive. Every person on that deck went silent. Some cheered, some couldn't speak. I completely 45-3002 RRI Vale ATTHE War Kashiap. When the Lamborghini arrived at the restoration workshop, it was still in exactly the same condition as when we pulled it from the ocean. Still barnacled, still rusted, still destroyed. But now it was surrounded by people who knew what to do. The workshop was bright, clean, and equipped for exactly this kind of challenge. The team had done restorations before, but nothing quite like this. Stage 1. Remove everything the ocean had left behind. High-pressure hot water jets blasted barnacle clusters off the body. Decades of marine growth flew across the workshop floor, and beneath it all, emerging for the first time, was the raw, deeply corroded, heavily pitted surface of the car. No paint left. Just rust. Just damage, just honesty. But it was a start. Then came the full disassembly, every component removed, every part catalogued, the engine lifted out and placed on a rebuild stand, the seat frames pulled free and set aside in a pile of rust and ruin, the panels removed one by one. To restore a car like this, you first have to take it completely apart. Weeks of work followed. Angle grinders, rust removal discs, needle scalers, chemical treatments, every trace of rust systematically hunted down and eliminated. And then, all the orange paint stripped completely, every last flake removed. What was left was pure, bare metal, silver clean. Ready to become something again. The rust holes, and there were dozens of them, had to be addressed. Expert metalworkers welded fresh steel patches into every gap. Replacement panels were formed on the English wheel, shaped by hand to match the original curves exactly. This was not repair work. This was precision surgery. Every weld ground smooth. Every panel straightened perfectly. The body was being rebuilt, 1 square inch at a time. Meanwhile, the engine, that corroded mass from the ocean floor, was being completely rebuilt from the inside out. Freshly machined block, rebuilt carburetors, all new gaskets and seals, new pistons, new bearings, new life. For the first time in decades, this engine was being prepared to run again. 4Z20 440 primer a day, and he first came the epoxy primer, smooth, gray, flawless, a perfect canvas for what was coming next. And then the moment everyone had been waiting for, orange, that deep, vivid electric orange that this car was born with, coat by coat, panel by panel, the color that the ocean had hidden for decades, was finally coming home. Inside the workshop, a master upholsterer was at work. Deep burgundy red leather, diamond tufted, hand-stitched, with individual brass button studs set in a perfect grid pattern, each stitch placed by hand, each button perfectly aligned, and the wooden spoke wheels, freshly turned pale honey wood, lacquered to perfection, fitted with polished brass hub caps that caught the light like mirrors. And then came the brass, those headlamps, that radiator grille, those bumpers. Every single brass fitting that had spent decades corroding dark green was now being hand-polished, piece by piece, to a brilliant, mirror, gold finish. You could see your reflection in them. You could see the whole workshop in them. You could see the future in them. Stage 75. 75 stages of work, months of effort, hundreds of hours of skilled, patient, obsessive craftsmanship. The showroom doors opened, the lights came on. And there she was. The orange paint, deep, glossy, mirror, perfect, reflected the showroom spotlights as perfect bright ovals across the hood and doors. The burgundy red leather seats, immaculate, vivid, warm, looked like they had never been touched by the ocean. The wooden spoke wheels, honey, gold grain under high gloss lacquer, the brass fittings, headlamps, grille, bumpers, dashboard, polished to a gold so brilliant it almost hurt to look at directly. And the marble showroom floor, perfectly reflecting the entire car beneath it, like the ocean once did, but differently now, this time reflecting perfection. The restoration team stood around it in silence. These were professionals. People who had done this before, people who do not easily show emotion. Several of them were smiling, a few were not quite able to speak. This car was never just a wreck, it was a promise that what is lost can be found, that what is broken can be rebuilt, that what the ocean takes, patience, skill, and passion can return. The same water that swallowed this Lamborghini for decades, now glitters in the distance behind it, reborn, perfect, alive, 75 stages, one legend, from the deep. If this story moved you, hit like, subscribe, and stay with us, because there are more legends waiting to be found.